Well, thank you all for taking time out of this beautiful day, one of the first spring days we had, to come and have a look at what we got going on. And really appreciate the support that we have from all the members. Without it, obviously, we couldn't make this happen. So anyway, we're going to have a presentation that's going to take 30 to 40 minutes with 3 other speakers, which is awesome. And then at approximately 2 o'clock, we'll go into the annual general meeting, which will be for members only. So our speakers, I've got Councillor Kerr, but it's Acting Mayor Kerr. That's going to be awesome to have a few words from Ron telling us the city's point of view on this project. And Colleen Evans from Chamber of Commerce, of course also a councillor, and liaison to tourism and the airport. So all good stuff. And then I'm just a warm-up act for these guys. Mark DeGagne from McElhaney Consulting, going to tell us about all these pictures that he's got around here and how we're going to build this place and spend a whole bunch of money. So we're going to go over the purpose of the organization, talk about membership and what the progress is, and after all the presentations we're going to have some question period. But if we can keep your questions till the end, if you need to write something down, be fine with that. So our purpose, Vancouver Island Motorsports Association brings motorsports enthusiasts together to create a permanent drag racing facility on Vancouver Island. Of course, it's a motorsports facility that we're looking to build, and as I always say, you got a return road, we'll make it crooked. It'll be a great road course, start for a road course, and then who knows what else we could build in that same area that we're talking about there. So that's what we're all about, and it's how we get going on it. And as Muhammad Ali said here, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. And I get scared often on this journey that we're on. But there's our membership increase since the last AGM. We went from 610 to 850, which is pretty darn good. I can't read those numbers from there, but Campbell River obviously is the kind of the lead in the whole deal here, with Nanaimo, Courtenay, and Alberni coming up strong. And you can see the South Island needs some help. Is there anybody here from Victoria today? Oh, look at this. That's awesome. Thank you. That's great. Yeah, we need a little help getting the message out down there, and hopefully, you know, you can recruit some people for us. It's really interesting to look at. We have stuff from Alberta and Saskatchewan and Yukon Territory. We even have somebody from North Carolina, happens to be the Nitro Harley champion, wanted to donate money to our cause, so God bless them. And who else? I'm just trying to think, even down in Washington State, we have some people there. So it's pretty darn good, and we're still looking for that 1,000 number. I mean, it's a real show of support for having a facility like this if we can actually get 1,000 people to contribute and continue to contribute as well to the cause. So what have we done? Well, it's just over 2 years that we've been in existence. You think about that, to go from 0 to 850 members, I think it's a testament to that there is a need very much for a facility like this. We did a noise study back in May. Otto Schulte brought his car out, and we had professionals there measuring the sound, and we were fortunate enough to have a lull in the ambient noise so that we could detect when the race car was running. So that was a pretty good result from that. 50.2 decibels was the level that they got to, and probably right now you're listening to probably 60 or 70 decibels, so it wasn't very loud. We consulted with Mission Raceway to find out a whole lot more about what we're going to be up against as far as building a racetrack and running a racetrack. And Otto Schulte was good enough to spend some time over there, make some good notes. And Councillor Kerr also went over, talked to the people at Mission, talked to the Chamber of Commerce, talked to the people at the city, and got all kinds of information, and it's great to have him here today. We also were out recruiting. We did the car show on Father's Day at Qualicum. We also did the Campbell River car shows, Wings and Wheels, and our downtown car show for the North Island Cruisers, and brought in members at those locations, had some cars on display. It all went, I think, very well. And we had display at the Truck Loggers trade show. Otto and Jim Mantle both were there, and it was Timar that was nice enough to let us use their booth, and we got exposed to different people and got some new members, and it was all good. We also distributed brochures. You can see some brochure holders that we have here on site. We got them at all the Lordco stores on the island, and actually over on the Sunshine Coast as well, and at Napa stores, as well as a few others. There's actually 30 of them out there. So we invested a little money there. It's a awareness thing, and each of the brochures has good instructions on how to join and support the cause. And probably one of the best and good feeling things was we actually got a letter from the Airport Commission that said we are unanimously in support of this project, and that they also recommend that council get behind it too. So it's all good news as far as we go there. Now, the checklist of requirements that we need for getting this thing going. I mean, the old days we'd go sit and have a couple of beers and write something down on a napkin, and maybe we'd go to the authorities and try and get approval, or maybe we'd just go out and build it. In some cases it worked, in some cases it didn't, but a lot of the racetracks that have been built and then closed because they were either in the wrong place or they were in such a good place that it was good land to develop, and it became valuable and it attracted people. So we want to build it in a place where we feel that it'll stay for a good long time, and I think that we've got that. So what is the checklist? A feasibility study. Actually, it is combined with our business plan. There's also the noise assessment study. When we have completed both of those, of course. Oh, the next one is the parking and traffic impact study. That one isn't done yet, but we're working on it, and we understand that we may be able to, let's say, do less of a study than we at first thought. Then the environmental assessment and riparian area assessment has been done. It's one of those necessities that have to be done. Then prepare the business plan. Well, that's what Mark is going to talk about here, the business case. It's very thorough, very detailed. Pretty much how many shovelfuls of gravel are going to be needed and the whole deal there. And then prepare the formal request for council. that is obviously very important. The city, people at the city are working on, or looking at the proposal right now, and they'll give a report to council in the next, 2 weeks maybe, something like that. Then if approved, then there'll be an application for a zoning bylaw change to allow for motorsports park use, and actually a definition for what a motorsports park is. Next, let's see, that's the memorandum of understanding that leads to a land use permit, and that's what we're really looking for. Now, the funding requirements, that's when it gets a little bit exciting. We're going to be after funding somewhere along the way here, but not much sense in doing that until we're one more step at least into this, where we're sure that it's going to take place. And we're going to need to have either money or pledges in writing up to 80% of the cost of the project. So we're doing two things to try and accommodate that, and that's try and keep the cost of the initial project down, phase 1, and really the, making it easy for people to support it. We're still talking about the $1,000 a foot thing, and over 4,000 feet out and 4,000 feet back, we could raise $8 million if we sold it out. And then it's begin construction. So instead of being able to just go out there and start digging, we've got to go through all these steps. And luckily, we're about halfway through. What else have I got here? Oh, consulting costs. Yeah, we've got to complain. We've got the consultants here, but the noise study was $9,450. The good thing about it was the Airport Commission and city paid half of that, and we have a sponsor, E&B Helicopters, who also contributed 25%, so we only paid 25% of that one. The business case that you're going to hear about, you're going to see what $9,685 with including taxes there will buy you. And the parking study is, or traffic and parking study, is budgeted at $7,500. And then to be make a professional brochure and have information or pictures that look like a racetrack, we got a budget there again of $3,500 to get that off the road. So we got nearly $30,000 in consulting fees that have gone into the project or will go into the project before too long here. So we need your support, and with your support, we're going to succeed. I think you're going to hear some good things here. So what else is new? Well, I don't know that you can see that very good or not, but we own a bridge. Up at the hydro site, they had this steel left over from one of the things that they were doing out there, and we were actually looking for fencing and other things that we could use. We knew that they're going to have some materials available, and so we're contacting, and they said, "You want this steel?" Well, kind of looked at it and said, that looks an awful lot like that bridge that goes over over Mission with Lordco on it there. So talked to Aztec Freight, and the bridge came from courtesy of Canron Constructors, and Aztec Freight went out there and picked it up, and they have it in their yard right now, but the airport is going to store it for us on the site until we need it. So more good news. What else? What's new? Well, not that interesting, but I'm much more comfortable now that everything that this organization does doesn't exist on my computer. It's out there in some cloud somewhere. I don't know that you guys know where that is, but it's secure, and we've got a membership list that's combined. We used to have 2 different systems. We're just making that all work. It's going to be accessible to other people in the organization, and should make a huge difference. We got a new address. It was my house. Every time Google Maps comes up. So how about P.O. Box 671? Does that 671 get anybody's attention? That's the type of supercharger, size of I wanted a 1471, but anyway, 671 we got. So that's what's going on. So that's enough about me. You've seen that out here. You've all had a chance to look at what's going on. I'd like to introduce at this time Acting Mayor Ron Kerr to give a few words regarding the city.
It's great to see so many of you out there today. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Acting Mayor Ron Kerr. Mayor Adams sends his regrets, and he's sorry that he can't be here today. The mayor and all the council have been attending the AVICC convention in Victoria this weekend. Councillor Evans and myself left early so that we could attend this meeting today. So I appreciate the opportunity to welcome all of you to the Vancouver Island Motorsports Association, AGM, on behalf of Council and the City of Campbell River. The City has received McElhaney's business case for the track, and staff are currently reviewing the information and will provide a report to Council at the next Council meeting on April 23rd. Council itself has also received copies of the business case and the community and noise assessment to review ahead of time. Great reading. And I've got to say personally that Mark DeGagne and your executive, Jim and Kermit, have made a persuasive business case for the motorsport facility in Campbell River. This is a huge opportunity for Campbell River. Now, I know it's taking longer than it should, as Kermit constantly reminds me. But I honestly believe with the work that's been done to this point, the business case, the studies, the membership numbers, that the whole community would feel confident moving ahead with this project. And I've got no doubt that you can build it successfully. It's what you do. It's in our nature and our North Island culture. I know myself, I'd rather be out there working on it than standing up here talking at another meeting. But it is moving through the process, as everyone does their due diligence. And I want to thank you, and especially Jim and Kermit, for your perseverance. So last summer, I drove to Mission and visited the Mission Raceway Park. And I spent the day talking to a number of people in the community and others connected to the track. Mission City Councilor Jim Hines was a great contact, and he introduced me all around. He's been involved in the raceway from the beginning and filled me in on all the economic benefits to the community from a city perspective. Kristen Parsons, who is the ED of the Mission Chamber of Commerce, talked about the new businesses and niche businesses that the track had brought to town, especially in their industrial park, and the families that moved there solely because of the track. Ken Lowe, president of the track, he took some time out of his busy day to show me the track and all the equipment they got. They had a great deal of challenge and adversity getting the track up and running 25 years ago. And except for the mosquitoes, they seem to be doing a great job now. He really focused on how much they give back and support the city through their many community events. So after a full day of talking, I got a chance to just sit and watch a few hours of street legal drag racing to finish it all off. It was a great day. And you know, I'm looking forward to the day when everyone has that opportunity in Campbell River. Thank you.
Introduce Colleen Evans, Councillor President and CEO of the Chamber and liaison, well, you tell them.
Yeah, sure.
There you go. Thanks, Colin.
Thanks, Jim. And I too want to acknowledge Kermit, who is just one of the biggest, between Jim and Kermit, you have huge community champions here. And it makes a difference when we're able to just talk firsthand with people like Jim and Kermit and hear for ourselves the progress and the challenges along the way. So thank you to both of you for being such great enthusiasts. I'm here today, just as well as Councillor Kerr did, just to thank you for your enthusiasm. It's incredible to be able to see the kind of support, to already be in the 800s in terms of membership and getting close to that 1,000. That's amazing. There's lots of organizations in our community who work hard every day to be able to get to a point where they have that kind of recognition. So good on you for already being there, close, like I say, close to that 1,000. I just want to share with you that I know it has been frustrating. We've heard that at a council level. I've heard that at a chamber level. We've heard that at a commission level. But what you're doing is the right thing, because it's all the efforts that you're putting in at the front end and to go through these steps, to tick the boxes on your checklist that are really going to make the difference. When Councillor Kerr and myself sit down with the rest of the councillors to review the report that's coming forward, it'll allow us to have a really informed understanding of what it is that you want, and to be able to have that feasibility study and that business case to review, and the stats and the well-documented information. Not only will we be able to support it enthusiastically as individual councillors, but we'll also have the hard data in front of us to be able to make an informed decision on behalf of all the taxpayers of Campbell River. So I just really appreciate and want to commend you for the efforts that you've taken, and I certainly do acknowledge that it's been frustrating, a little bit frustrating along the way. Jim mentioned that I'm also a liaison, I'm council's liaison on the Airport Commission. And Jim and his team made a great presentation to the Commission. Even before that presentation, there was a discussion around the Commission supporting the noise study, and that happened. And then when Jim came, not unlike a lot of people in the community, some of those members around the table of the Commission hadn't really heard what the whole vision was for this facility and for what you are all planning on doing. Certainly as a fan and a racer, you know only too well what this can mean for a community. So it was really exciting to be able to see, after Jim made his presentation, just all the questions that were being asked and all the enthusiasm around the table. And that really speaks well to all the great work that you've done. But that got us to the point where the Commission gave a letter of support. And we have that as a council, and as you know, now we're moving through a more formal process where staff will bring forward their report. We do have, as Councillor Kerr mentioned, the business study, the feasibility that we're able to review now in advance of that more formal process. And I'm just welcoming the opportunity to be able to have a discussion with all of council on this. Of course, tourism and hospitality are key economic spin-offs of this opportunity, and as a liaison to the Tourism Commission and the Tourism Advisory Committee, we've been having these discussions. These have been some of the challenges that we're trying to address with this new tourism model. How can we attract diversity to our community with diversity in terms of what we offer for tourism experiences? This is exactly what we're talking about. The other challenge that we've been having is how can we support economic growth and activity during the shoulder season? And again, this is exactly what we're talking about. So you're hitting on a number of key points that the Tourism Advisory Council is speaking to as well. I'm also the president of the Campbell River Chamber of Commerce, and we have a lot of enthusiasts on our board, car enthusiasts, motorsport enthusiasts, and so what I would like to offer to you is when your executive feel the timing is right, I think it would be great if you could come and speak to the chamber and our members at probably a lunch and learn. I'm thinking Jim and Kermit might be the best way to do this. But a lot of businesses and a lot of our members also don't have really an informed understanding of how far you've progressed and what the vision is. So I'd like to offer you that opportunity as well, and I'll just leave it up to the executive to decide when the right time to do that is. I just commend Councillor Kerr on taking the time to spend an entire day in mission. I think his ability to be able to speak not only to councillor members but also to businesses and the chamber in that community really helped to create a catalyst and momentum for moving this forward. I also had the opportunity to talk to the Mission Chamber, and they have unequivocally offered their support. So I know that as this progresses and as this gains even more momentum in the community, you can count on chambers who have benefited, had their members benefit from having an opportunity like Motorsports in their community and have the vision of what you have brought into their community. They're going to have chambers support up and down Vancouver Island as well, and even outside of Vancouver Island. So one of the things that you talk about in your feasibility study and your business plan is the spin-off benefit of, I think you call it buy local. I like to say think local first, because a lot of people don't even realize what is available here in our own community. But the spin-off benefit of what this can mean to our small business community because of a facility like this is paramount to just another reason why, I'd say multiple reasons why, we want to have this here in our community. We have with North Island College a new trades facility, the opportunity for education and training, hands-on working on autos and working at the facility. Those are great learning opportunities for our young people. So I just want to share with you that you have a lot of enthusiastic support. We have to go through our due diligence. That's why myself and Councillor Kerr, you've elected us to do that on council, and we want to take those roles very responsibly. But I just want to commend you on taking the time to do it right, because in the long run, that will serve you well. And I know that one of your next speakers is going to be Mark, who created the business case. But thank you very much for the opportunity to come to speak to you, and thank you for all your enthusiasm. Thank you.
My name is Mark DeGagne. I am a professional engineer, and I work with McElhaney Consulting here in town. And very excited about this project. Been working with Jim and Otto and Kermit and Dan Wickham since just before Christmas, when they came down and said, do you know anything about business cases? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I do, but I don't know anything about drag racing. So we did lots of research, we talked to lots of people, and we came up with an economic analysis, which I'm about to introduce to you, and we discussed sort of the key elements of the drag strip, which I'll try to describe without screwing up too badly. So please bear with me if I don't get some of the terminology correct. But go ahead, Mike. Just to give you a bit of overview of what I'm going to talk about, doing a market assessment, which was the basis of what our competition is out there, and a conceptual design, so what do we want this thing to look like. We talked about the capital costs, how much is this going to cost, and you'll see in the cost estimate that I present that it'll be in 2 phases, and I'll try to describe the works in each phase so that we can get an understanding of what this track's going to look like opening day, and then what it will look like 3 or 4 years into the project once some positive cash flows get realized. And then the economic analysis, which is your revenues versus your costs, both operating and your capital costs. And we'll talk about that a little bit, and then I'll give you a little bit of conclusion there at the end. So I found out that there are no quarter-mile tracks on the island, and Kermit has told me that this is the largest population-based area in the world that is not serviced by a proper drag racing facility. And The Campbell River Airport is a prime location for such a facility. Noise being a fair concern with the public at large. And airports are inherently noisy places, so there's plenty of room out there, as you'll see, for all of the parking and facilities we need. And our other competition is, you know, the 3 events that they have at the 1/8 of a mile track in Port McNeill, at their little airport, and then the one on Stamp Avenue in Port Alberni. Those are really the only racing opportunities you folks have on the island that I know of.
You're missing the over a dozen events a year that we run in Victoria.
And there's apparently a dozen events in Victoria that I didn't know about. Is that an 1/8 of a mile?
It's under an 1/8 mile, 365 feet.
Yeah, so, okay, so those 2 events, those 2 facilities run 1/8 of a mile races. The closest official NHRA official track is Mission, and we relied heavily on discussions with them in our assessment of potential revenues and operating costs, et cetera. And the 850 members that you have, as Jim had explained earlier, comes from all over, including Alberta and the Pacific Northwest. Next. Oh. So the design we have is full NHRA specifications for a 1/4 mile track, including the required run-out area. We have a 60-meter burnout area and start area, and that will be made out of concrete. The asphalt acceleration zone is going to be 75 millimeters thick to account for the extra wear and tear while the cars are accelerating. And then the run-out zone will be 50 millimeters thick initially, and as the track operates and the wear and tear of the facility occurs, there'll be plenty of opportunity to do overlays and to extend the life of the asphalt. It's key here that we build a good base for this roadway rather than the surface at this point in time. We'll, according to the sound study, we require a 500-meter, 5-meter high long sound berm, and you'll see that on the drawings. And that will come from all the excess excavation that we have to do to get the site prepared. There's going to be at least 1 foot of overburden on the site that we'll need to strip away before we begin to build this road on. At this time, or for phase 1, it'll be gravel return roads and pit access areas with the hope in the future to have those paved. And we've allowed for all the full timing and electronic elements, including a PA system, in our budgets. And there's plenty of parking for everyone, as we'll get to that. So what does the facility look like? Here's, can you see that? Can you all see that pretty good? So Mike, if you start along the east side, and we can talk about the entrance and the parking for the people. So at the entrance to the facility, we'll have a ticketing, administration building, future washrooms, and over the first 1/4 mile, we have a 20-meter wide, basically a street right of way that will allow for parking on both sides and accommodate in excess of 300 vehicles. And then you can see we still have another half mile of run-out area where we can put overflow parking. We also have overflow parking in here. And if you look in the boards, you'll see some little dashes here to give you scale. Those cars are to scale on the drawing. So there's plenty of parking here for everybody. And there is much more on the west side of the track as well. Let's go to the berm, Mike. So the first 500 meters of the berm is a wider section. We've allowed it for it to be 5 meters high, and the portion facing the track would be at a 5 horizontal to 1 vertical slopes, a nice gentle slope where people can initially park their butts and watch the race and not be obstructed by others. It'll eventually become the bleacher area when we can afford the bleachers. After that, we narrow it up to 2 to 1 horizontal, so steeper sides, and then we can have the area to the northeast there where Mike's marker is, we can have the tailgaters and stuff in that area if that's something that is one of the attractions at the racetrack. The light gray is the first 330 feet of concrete, 8 inches of concrete, all reinforced for the heavier burnout, wear and tear, and putting the tacky stuff down while the guys accelerate. After that, we have a darker strip, the first quarter mile, 75 millimeters of asphalt, and then the rest is the 50 millimeters of asphalt. And again, the return roads, we've tried to make it look like a little bit of a circuit so that in the future can be enhanced and maybe become a circuit for circuit racing. We have a space here to the west of the racetrack where the pit crews can come in. We have spots currently aligned for 90 teams. Those spots are approximately 60 feet long by 20 feet wide, so there's enough room for the trailer and the motorhome or whatever, and your car to be beside it, and pull out and stuff like that. The scale of this thing is really hard to imagine because it's a 19-hectare site and it's long and linear, so everything that looks very small is actually quite big. And then all of the pit crews, we have tractor trailer pit crew area here, initially 20 spots. And you can see there's plenty of room for expansion to the northwest for more pit areas, future maintenance buildings, pit washrooms, and a control tower, and the overhead pedestrian bridge, which you've now secured from the hydro site. All of those elements are in the current budget. So we can talk a little bit more about if you have any questions about the facility, but we'll continue to move forward here. So here's the basic costs. So we've allowed for about $500,000 worth of site preparation, which is the clearing and the grubbing. It's obviously cleared already, but we have to grub out anywhere between 300 millimeters a foot and a foot and a half to 2 feet of soil. In many places that will become the sound berm. Much of it will be probably having to take off site. We got to prepare the staging area, which is the part of the track from the pit area into the starting area. That's going to be paved, $62,000. So the burnout, the starting area, and the track, all in, is about $1.5 million. That's the base materials brought in, is imported to create the foundation for the roadway and all the topping materials. And then the other various things. Safety, electrical, and buildings, 325. Return road and pit area, 602. That's as a gravel surface. And soft costs. So we built into this estimate 20% contingency for those things that we haven't been able to foresee at this point in time. Drainage is going to be a big issue. The site does get quite wet in the winter. There are existing drainage paths we'll have to accommodate for. We have built some numbers into our estimate, and that is hidden in the site preparation area. But we've allowed for 20% of this budget to be for contingency for the unknowns that we are going to face, or the additional things we want that we don't have in the budget right now. That includes 10% for detailed engineering costs and construction supervision so that this thing gets built correctly, and about 5% for contractor costs for such things as bonding and mobilization and insurance during construction. It all comes to about $4 million for the first phase. In the second phase, we'll add more asphalt surfaces and amenities, washrooms and municipal services, electrical services. And, initially it's thought that the racetrack will be powered by a diesel generator. We don't need a lot of power. It's mostly for the PA system and the lighting system. But eventually we'll want to get bathrooms, municipal services, water and sewer to the site, more pavement on the ground for the other things. Again, those costs include things like engineering contingency and the mobilization costs for the contractor. Grand total over the first 4 years is about $5.4 million for this facility. Now those are based on strictly hiring a contractor tomorrow to come in and build the thing for you at what we normally expect those rates to be. We have not built into this cost estimate any in-kind contributions, but all that sort of stuff obviously lowers your initial capital costs. Just to summarize, we think it's quite a conservative budget, or realistic, maybe that's a better word to say. So the economics, based on a similar and eventually a similar schedule to what they would do at Mission Raceway, where you have your street legals on Fridays, normally throughout the race season, and then you have some bracket racing, some more minor racing events on a monthly basis. And they have about 4 to 5 major events a summer, and I think that's what we would be aiming for in the future. So we have projected initially for year one about $450,000 in revenue from racing team fees and spectator fees. We have not really built into this budget in a conservative way anything like concession or t-shirt sales like Councillor Kerr has on right now. But those things we see as basically an in and an out with not a lot of initial profit in them, but they can be built into the business plan as we move forward. After year 5, we would be up to about $800,000 in revenues a year. Projected operating costs, including all of the materials for racing, safety materials, equipment, fees for labor, fees for electrical, power, fees for awards and payouts, all of that stuff is around $200,000 a year, rising slightly from year 1 to $210,000 at year 5. We put all of that stuff into a spreadsheet, very simple economic analysis over a 25-year life cycle of this project, including operating costs and maintenance costs for the track. We allow 2% per year for maintenance of the track, so that we would expect, even in year 1, the maintenance would be very low on the asphalt surfaces and stuff like that. But if you put 2% away each year, by the time you have to do asphalt resurfacing and stuff like that, you have a fund available to do those maintenances. So we build all of that into the model, and it comes back with some positive cash flows, and the base case scenario is that the track will pay for itself in 14 years. We've taken a look at variables such as increased capital costs or lower operating revenues on a sensitivity basis, or changes in interest, because we build borrowing interest into this model for our business case. The best case scenario is 12 years payback, and the worst case is 19 years. And every year we see a positive cash flow, which is very good for you guys in terms of this is a real viable business. We've based our spin-off benefits on talking with people like the people in Port Alberni and Mission Raceway. On any given weekend, visiting racers and spectators will spend about $300 to $350 per day in Campbell River for each visit. We've budgeted about 30% of fans and racers staying and playing in Campbell River. It comes to about $2 million a year as spin-off benefits for the community, and we think that is a conservative number. Again, our construction numbers carry contingencies. Projected cash flows are positive from year 1, and this is a viable business in conclusion to the whole thing. Great location, And there is a bit of further work required that Jim and Kermit and Otto have given us the license to do, or the authorization to do, and we're currently looking at the parking and traffic assessment. Initially, we had thought that we needed to do more of a comprehensive study. That's the $7,500 cost that Jim was talking about, but we are going to be talking with the city to see if we can frame this into a little bit more efficient type of analyses and maybe save you guys a few bucks there, because we're very supportive of this this venture. I think it's fantastic. After you get your zoning and you're ready to go to detailed design, we're here to help for that. So that's the next kind of couple steps that we hope to be involved in with you guys. Next. I think that's it. I'm done.
Down at that racetrack. Any ideas?
How important is this track to your community?
I think for the whole island, I think it's a real benefit. You know, there's been opportunities in other cities along the island, but unfortunately a lot of them have fallen through. But I think the benefit to the city of Campbell River would be a tremendous bonus, not only economically, but beneficial to all the racers on the island, which there are quite a number of. And eventually, I guess it'll be other motorsports that'll be included in the track also. So I think it's, you know, beneficial to everybody on the island. And I'm sure that a lot of the racers from the mainland will also come, like they used to come to the Port Alberni track. And you know, a lot of the reasons that a lot of them started coming is because they shut down the only quarter-mile track we had on the island. Which, so, you know, and I think it's just a really good thing for everybody.
So do you miss the quarter-mile track?
I think I do, because the 8th mile is all right, but it's just, you know, it deters a lot of the really fast cars. There's just really not enough room for them. And there are a lot of very fast cars on the island here that most people don't ever get a chance to see because they end up going to other tracks in various parts of the country.
They literally have to leave the island.
Pretty well, because, you know, it's just not viable tracks for them to run at. And I know several of them that are in that position that they really can't run their cars at an 8th mile track.
Okay, tell me how important this is to you.
Well, I'm not a drag racer. I'm a roundy racer. That's what I did in my fun time. But I'm looking at this from an economic point of view for Vancouver Island, firstly, or secondly, and Campbell River, firstly. And I see this as a great opportunity to expand tourism and hospitality in our community. And I also don't mind going to watch drag racing, so I see this as a big economic input to our area. I hope people understand how much work goes into this. Jim and the board of directors for VIMSA have done a tremendous amount of work. This stuff is all done by volunteers, and we're close. It's close to happening, and I'm confident.
So how long have you been in the industry, you know, racing?
I've been around racing forever, since I was like 4 years old, but I started drag racing about 8 years ago. I raced stock cars and oval track before that.
And how important was it to you to actually get this track open?
Oh, you know, it would be great for Campbell River. It's unbelievable the number of people they would bring to Campbell River and the economic spin-offs and everything for it. Drag racing burns up a lot of tires, and I own a tire shop, so.
And fuel.
Yeah, and fuel. I mean, it'll fill up restaurants, hotels, gas stations, grocery stores, beer and wine stores.
Campgrounds.
Yeah, campgrounds, auto parts stores. You know, it would just be a huge impact for Campbell River.
Well, and this would be literally the only one left on Vancouver Island, and you guys are, sounds like they're putting a lot of effort into getting everything organized, make sure they dot their I's and cross their T's. How does that make you feel when they're not just, like you said, writing this out on a napkin and tearing into it?
Well, it was important to us that we did everything right. We consulted with everybody in the community that we could. We made sure that we weren't going to have an impact on anyone else's livelihood. You know, that was the reason for the noise abatement study, to make sure that when we were running a car at the airport, that it wouldn't affect anybody in the nearest neighborhoods. And when we did it, we had a negative rating of around 9 decibels quieter than the ambient road noise. And we did that without any sound berms, any concrete retaining walls or anything, all of which would reduce the sound even more.
So are you getting excited? Are you getting ready to start putting down some rubber on this track?
Well, I've been excited for almost 4 years waiting for this to come together, and it's starting to now look like in the next 3 or 4 months, maybe we would be really, really close if we don't have a land use permit by then.
Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just get out there and buy a membership to the Vancouver Island Motorsports Association and help us make this thing happen.